We're going to start from a seated position, and I always tell people to sit any way they'd like. So come to a comfortable seated position, legs in any shape. I even was reading today that if you sat with your back up against the wall, that might help you better stay vertical and in a posture that works for your body. So welcome to yoga and how to modify it. And just let yourself relax wherever you are or in whatever shape you're in. Lying down is actually also a very acceptable way of starting your beginning Shavasana in a yoga class. So other than that, go ahead and close down your eyes if you can. If closing your eyes is difficult, which it can be for people, lower your gaze and maybe just halfway close your eyes. Maybe just soften the muscles around your eyes. I've been enjoying preparing for this class as you begin to notice your breath. Um, I want people to understand that making yourself modifications and knowing when to use different ones is part of knowing the language of yoga. And I'm hoping to help you uncover the language of yoga that'll work for your body and make your practice very fruitful. We usually practice a breathing exercise at the beginning of class, and this just helps us come more into our bodies. And what's happening now is you're probably noticing your body settling, however you're positioned on the mat. If you happen to be seated, make sure that your sits bones are really pressing into the floor and that you're sturdy in your spine. Think of it that way. Using each of the vertebrae stacked on top of the other to help you stay supported, maybe using your hands by your sides, taking some stacks of books, placing them right by your hips or wherever, however far away you might need to be able to feel that support. So we'll go ahead with our breathing. And just begin to draw each breath a little deeper into the belly. Don't worry if you're moving or still trying to explore shapes that are comfortable for you. So many different ways we can be comfortable seated. We could even be in a chair, which, speaking of which, I've placed one here so that I can use it in a couple different poses today. And as always, if you can think of other ways to use a chair for your practice, you can modify any way you desire or think of. You can be creative too. As you take the next breath into the belly, see if you can't expand your abdomen first and then feel like the breath is moving up your torso from your lower chest to your upper chest with that inhale. And then let it seem like the breath is leaving from the top down until you can tighten your abdominal, muscles, your abdomen, and then force that air out. A little bit of tightening at the end to just get that little bit of a push to get the last bit of the exhale to leave. And just keep going back and forth at your pace. This yoga class and how to modify is still making the yoga practice more of an internal exercise rather than an external one. This process happens by confronting and accepting change, maybe change in our bodies, maybe change in our balance from day to day, hour to hour, supporting each other here in the practice of yoga together and embracing the power that comes from our shared personal stories. Yoga, in its modifications, isn't just a progressive way of teaching an asana class. It's a conversation about how we're each able to step into our personal power. And I love that about this practice. And I encourage you, as you breathe here, we'll take a few more belly breaths, to feel into your body as you practice. See if you can sense maybe a hum, a tingling, or a buzz. And think of your yoga practice as trying to understand and amplify your connection to that hum, that buzz you feel by moving your body. Let's set the belly breath aside if you haven't already. And just let the body come back into its own rhythm of breath. Today, as I cue our practice together, I'd like you to be active in deciding in each pose whether you want to ground yourself or extend the pose, whether you want to stay low or lift up higher. Not worrying anymore about what complicated poses we can do, being much more interested in refining, the base of our poses, seeing if we can continually deepen and refine the quality of the base of any simple pose, and the rest can just come. So let's begin to move by first fluttering open the eyes. And then moving the fingers and the toes, whatever shape your legs happen to be in, you can go ahead and move your legs around. Maybe start to point and flex your feet, open and close your hands. Just feel into your body a little bit more here. Maybe noticing your breath and how it might be changing with this little movement. We're going to begin by moving through our shoulders, taking them back and forward. So maybe your elbows move with you, maybe your arms move with you, maybe the hands also move. Maybe you're not really moving very much of your arms. Maybe you're keeping your hands more by your side or on your legs, just moving the shoulders, rounding the back, and then opening the heart. Trying to sit up nice and tall as you do so. And then we'll bring our shoulders back to the center. And let's think of bringing our shoulder to our ear. So just lift one side, bring the shoulder to the ear as far up as you can, then draw them away from each other as far as you can. See if you can open the arm you're extending out to the side a little bit, the opposite arm from your head. And we'll move to the other side. First, the shoulder comes up towards the ear, and then the shoulder goes away from the ear all the way down the back, and you can drop the opposite ear, extending the hand out to the side. So the opposite hand extends from the shoulder that's at the ear. We're just moving through the head here and the neck. Let's go ahead now, come back to center. Exhale to release your chin towards your chest. Just take a couple of breaths here. Stretching out the back of the neck, the upper shoulders, some of the back of the head here. Great. Inhale to lift, bringing your chin back up to parallel. And let's begin to move side to side with half moon stretches. So we lift one arm, the palms up. We bring it across the body over to the other side. And we can let the lower arm support us, bending the elbow as much as we need, both elbows bending as much as we need. Just feeling not only this movement through the shoulders, but into the side body. Maybe making it more flowy, less flowy. We'll come back up so that we're sitting up nice and tall. And let's come into staff pose, stretching our feet and legs out. Don't worry about a bent knee. It's hard to straighten your legs out in front of you, but let your sits bones press into the floor. Let your arms extend out by the sides, and we'll inhale, the arms come up. Exhale, we'll come into a forward fold. Let's start to lead with the chest. And then we'll let our arms drop rather quickly, and we'll let them support us here in front of us, maybe moving our blocks so that we place the hands a little higher, helping us keep our back straight. Maybe we're not reaching our arms so far forward. Maybe we're supporting our spine with the shoulders just slightly moved forward from the hips. Maybe you're feeling this in your spine. Maybe you're feeling it in the backs of your legs. Maybe you want to try to straighten your legs once you are where you are. Maybe you want to wiggle your toes. Now let's begin to fall even more forward. If we're able, we can curve our spine, draw our hands and arms forward, and start to tuck our chin. See how heavy you can make the top part of your body. Maybe you're still staying supported with hands on blocks or on the mat or floor. Take one more breath here. And on the next inhale, slowly begin to lift yourself up away from your legs. Imagining that you're being pulled by the back side of your body. Chin untucks from being towards the chest, if that's a modification you made. Let's make our way now up to table pose. Maybe placing a prop underneath your knees. I like to give myself a little cushion on this tile floor. And then setting up the table how you're comfortable. Knees should be under your hips, and explore with letting your knees come right as wide as your hips, hip distance apart. Then place your hands down. See if you can open your fingers away from each other and see how much pressure your wrists will take. Maybe it's better for you to grab a couple of blocks and place the blocks under the hands. For some people, it's actually quite comfortable to put their fist into the block or onto the floor to help them not stretch the wrists so much. So what we'll do here first from this tabletop position is think of your torso like a barrel. See if you can do a barrel roll. There's a slight bending of the elbow as the chest comes forward and across and back up and around. So you're making your torso and your head, so it's your shoulder and your hips, go around in a circle. Let's stop in that circle and go the opposite direction with our barrel rolls. Maybe you're adjusting where your arms are. Your wrists should be under or slightly wider than your elbows. Now let's bring our torso back to neutral. And let's talk about that neutral position. Press into your hands and knees and just slightly begin to move your hips. See if you can isolate your tailbone that's attached to the hips and tuck your tailbone and then fan it out and up. And let's take more and more of our spine to do this. So you might move, if you're able, out of your hips and sort of up your spine. You might press on your hands a little more. You might round your shoulders. You might dip your chin towards your chest. You might not do these things. I often think about having people, constantly ask themselves the question, do I want to do this? Like, so my cue can be taken as just a suggestion, and you can do what feels good for you to do in the moment, making yoga your own and modifying it for comfort, enjoyment. All right, so these are cat cows. As we round our spine, we look like a Halloween cat, and as we drop the navel towards the floor and bow the back, we look more like a cow. Let's bring our spine to neutral. So do a small cat-cow and find that place of neutrality and stay there with your spine, hips, and shoulders. From here, we'll try some knee and head tucks. We'll press into our hands in one knee and lift the opposite knee, bringing our nose towards that knee and then releasing the knee down and bringing the head and shoulders from that curled up kind of position into a flat back once again in a neutral spine. Switch to the other side. This is just called nose to knee here. And we do this in several different positions, and you can alternate from side to side, picking up your weight, shifting it over to the opposite side, setting it down evenly, and then alternating back and forth. And the next time both of your knees rather are down, we'll leave them there, coming back to our table, neutral spine. Let's stretch the right leg out behind us, curling under the toes. And let's press into our hands in the bent knee to really fan those toes as we sort of reach the heel down towards the floor, back behind us. So we can lift and lower the heel, come up onto the tippy toes, with the heel lifted, and then really press into more of the foot as the heel lowers. Let's shift so that our hips are back up over the top knee, excuse me, the bent knee, I meant to say. And inhale to stretch or slide the opposite hand forward. That left hand moves and shifts forward. If that doesn't feel good, pull it back and stay with 3 points on the mat. Find length and extension here. Maybe pick up the toes and the fingertips from the mat. Maybe even bring arm and leg parallel to the floor. Do what's comfortable for you and exhale to release as you're ready, and let the hips sway from left to right. Maybe the head sways a little from left to right as well. We'll come back to center and come to our sunbird on the opposite side. First, stretching the left foot back, tucking under those toes, playing with stretching the leg as the heel tries to lower, as we press into the left toes and the ball of the foot. And then we lift the hips forward, coming up onto the tippy toes on that left side and go back and forth in between as that stretch feels good. Extended cat. We'll move it into sunbird by lifting the back leg, perhaps keeping the right hand right where it is, or keeping that left foot lower, reaching the right hand out, maybe moving the block to help us support our body evenly right and left. Maybe we're lifting to parallel and finding extension. Maybe we're finding extension low to the floor. Nice. Am I grounding or am I trying to extend? Do I want to lift things to raise up higher in poses, or do I want to stay low? Let's bring everything back into table and sway those hips back and forth once again. And then we'll sink into either child's pose or puppy dog pose. Child's pose, we'll bring our big toes together. Our knees can widen a little or a lot, and we'll lay or draw our chest and head towards the floor. If it's more comfortable to stay propped up onto forearms, again, maybe using blocks under forearms, that's fine too. And if the hips don't quite settle back towards the heels, that's fine. We can even keep the hips all the way forward and come into puppy dog pose. Puppy dog pose is similar to child's pose because you're releasing the chest, opening the chest. It's a chest opener. But the hips are up over the knees. The arms are stretched as far forward as able. And the chest is released to the floor. The belly button's released. Maybe your feet have come together or are lifted. Not worrying or sweating the small stuff. Just exploring and trying out these different shapes. If child's pose and puppy dog pose are totally uncomfortable, come onto your belly. We'll all meet there in 2 breaths. If you're resting, or once you're resting on your belly, go ahead and bend up through both elbows, stack your hands, and place your forehead on the back of the top palm. On the next inhale, let's bring our hands underneath our shoulders and our elbows right by our rib cage on both sides. Press your hands into the floor and inhale. Excuse me. I've had a little cold. Inhale to lift your head, neck, and chest up away from the floor into half cobra. So our legs are straight behind us. Our toes are kind of pointing back behind us. Our feet are flat. Elbows are in. And we're inhaling to lift up away from the floor. We can exhale to lower. We can rest our forehead for any number of breaths. But when you're ready, once again, inhale to lift into the half cobra. Exhale to lower. And let the breath guide the pace of your movement. Now, the next time you exhale, go ahead and take a rest. Our next pose is going to be very similar. It's called Sphinx. And in Sphinx, we inhale to lift our head, neck, and chest, our face away from the mat. We'll reach our hands forward so that our elbows come underneath us and we can prop ourselves up on our forearms. Let the elbows come a little bit in front of the shoulders and widen your fingers away from each other. See if you can relax the front part of your body, your chest, your abdomen, upper abdomen, lower abdomen, legs, thighs, feet. And press with your elbows, forearms, and hands into the floor and mat. Feel that stretch and length and extension. And then we'll exhale to release. From here, we'll keep our head down. Our forehead can rest on that top hand. We can even alternate the hand at this point. And we'll come into half locust. So we'll leave the upper part of the body grounded to the floor here. On the next inhale, though, see if you can lift your right foot off the mat, lifting the heel up towards the ceiling. And just activate that leg as you point that foot rather, away from your body. Just hold it there as long as you're able, and then exhale to release it. Perhaps you inhale to lift into half locust, exhale to lower, inhale to lift. Just this right foot, X and leg, exhale to lower. Switch to the other side and we'll inhale to lift the left foot and leg. Exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. Going with our pace, our breath. And then exhale, releases that foot. From here, let's move into table from our belly position here, prone to the floor. We can bring our hands under our shoulders and lift our spine and then our hips up off the mat, coming into table, maybe coming into a high lunge, stepping one foot forward, maybe modifying by using a chair or a wall to help you be supported. Go ahead and move the prop from our mat here. Excuse me. And I was thinking we could come to the wall for our sun breaths today. Sun breaths are typically done seated, standing, sometimes supine, sometimes prone, I guess. But use the wall to support your body. Maybe draw your heels right against the wall or against your molding or whatever. Excuse me, and just feel the back of your hips, maybe the middle of your back, maybe your shoulders, back of your head against the wall. Let's inhale to lift our arms, palms up, and then exhale to lower the arms. Let's just move with our breath here. Palms come down or face down as you lower your arms. What we're going to build into this little flow here with our breath is lifting our heels as our arms lift, coming onto our toes, more or maybe less, and then exhaling to lower the heels back to the floor. See if you can measure the heels to lift right in sync with the arms. And move at your own pace. All right. Next time your arms come down by your sides, if you have a chair, go ahead and move over toward it. I'll cue this in both ways, just in the interest of helping people modify as much or as little as possible. We'll bring our right foot up on the seat of the chair and just kind of measure how far away does that left foot need to be. We want our right knee to be at a right angle. And from here, we're going to come into a standing twist by turning our chest and our upper body away from that knee. We can bring same hand to the lifted knee, and we can inhale to draw the opposite arm and hand back. Let your eyes or your head move as much toward looking back behind you as you're comfortable. You could even hold on to another part of the chair or another piece of furniture that's near you. Just feel your chest and shoulder opening on this side. Grounded through both feet, both legs. Exhale to release the hand. Let your chest and head come back to facing front. We'll release the right foot from the seat of the chair and lift the left foot. Now you could do this using not a chair at all. And you could bring your right foot and knee up towards your chest and raise the back arm. Look back behind you in that twist. There are lots of ways to be able to open this opposite side of your body here. Twist your spine up through the neck if your chin is moving back behind you to look back. Extend the fingertips as far away from you as you can. And then when you exhale, we'll lower that back arm, turn the chest back towards the front, and release the left foot. I'm going to modify here to move my mat a little bit away from the chair for our next series of poses. If you'd like to use the chair and you'd like to put it on your mat, you could do some of this seated, or you could use a wall, moving your mat closer to the wall, and always have one hand on the wall. So coming to the top of the mat, let's find our mountain pose. Feet are about hip distance apart. You're pressing into the toes, pressing into all four corners of your feet. And one way to get nice and grounded through the feet is through a process called Pada Bandha, or engaging your Pada Bandha, I should say. So I want to do that with you now. So if you are standing or seated and you can place your feet on a block so that your whole foot can press into something. It's hard for me to do that when I'm seated on the floor. My heels can't quite get as far to the ground as grounded as my toes. At any rate, what we'll do from here is press into the balls of both feet and lift all 10 toes off of the floor. And then activate all 10 of those toes. And as you set them down, let them curl kind of to the floor. You'll feel the action happening in the tissues in the bottom of the foot, and you'll be able to feel yourself kind of stuck like a gecko to the floor, grounded to the floor. So from our mountain here, we'll inhale our arms out to the sides or forward as high as our arms can go. As we exhale, we'll bend our elbows and knees. We'll start to shift our body weight forward so that we can lower our head, neck, and chest. We can use the chair that's in front of us or a block that's by our side here in our forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. And by the way, knees don't have to be straight in the forward fold, they can be bent. As we exhale, we'll come back into the forward fold. We'll step the left foot back behind us to come into a runner's lunge. I'm going to keep this low. If you'd like to let your yoga bring your chest up away from your leg, forward leg, and stand more in a high lunge, go ahead and do that. From this runner's lunge, feel your hips releasing to the floor. You're stepping into that forward foot, all four corners. The Pada Bandha is there. You're pressing into just the back toes and the back ball of the foot. The heel behind you is lifted. From here, we'll come into plank by dropping the left knee and sliding that right foot. I have to kind of bring mine out to the side and back and down. We're going to slide that foot behind us and come into a half plank or a whole plank. Feet can be flat on the floor here, or toes can be tucked. Take a breath or two, making sure your elbows are facing each other, the fingers are wide. The tips are pressing into the mat, the palms pressing into the mat, especially around the bottom of the palm. From here, let's move from our half plank or plank into child's pose or puppy dog pose. Choosing which one works better for your body. And then lift your head, neck, and chest. Bend your elbows so that you come onto your forearms and walk your forearms towards the top of the mat to come back onto your belly. We'll come into a half cobra again, placing the hands under the shoulders, elbows by your sides. Inhale, lift the head and neck and chest up away from the floor. Exhale to release, tuck your toes and press your shoulders and then your hips up away from the floor. Come into a downward facing dog. Now, down dog may not work for your body, and so modify your downward facing dog with table. Holding yourself into table. You can lift and lower your heels if you're in down dog. You could come into cat and cow or do another barrel roll from table. From here, from table or down dog, step the left foot forward this time. This time we're in that runner's lunge on the other side. Maybe you're using pillows underneath you. Maybe you're using blocks. We can lower that back knee and come up to standing, or we can come up to standing through a forward fold, letting that back knee and foot step up, maybe taking more than one step even. I do that lots of times. And then we'll inhale and come from a forward fold all the way up to standing, arms up overhead. We'll exhale, hands come down to the heart in prayer pose. From here, we'll step the feet apart, bring them to the edge of the mat. Inhale the arms out to the side or out in front, as high as you can lift your hands, coming into 5-point star. So think of yourself as a sea star and find that length, however much you wanted to lift, making sure you're stable and balanced and grounded in your base. Exhale to bring your arms either down from the front or from the side. Walk your feet together. We'll step the right foot back and find our warrior one shape. In warrior one, with the back foot, we want it to be slightly diagonal. The right toes are kind of pointed more to the right. We're going to bend the left knee as much as is comfortable. And we can have a very close stance with a slightly bent knee, anywhere in between to a more distant stance between the feet, and maybe a larger bend in the knee. Go with what works for your body. And warrior one here will lift the arms up over the head, or perhaps bring them to the hips. Maybe bring them to the heart. Maybe only lift one hand. Feeling the back stretch in that leg behind you. Excuse me. Let's step that back foot forward, taking one or more steps to bring it to the front of the mat. And we'll switch to the opposite side, finding our warrior one legs with the left foot back. Hips are still pointed forward towards the short end of the mat. And we can lift one or both arms, bring them to our waist or to our heart. We could even have this front leg on a chair. We could do our warrior one. Finding that same stretch in that back leg, kind of kneeling on the chair. Maybe you put the foot under you to find your warrior one chair pose, and you keep the knee lifted, more like something like this. So there are lots of modifications and options. Let's all meet at the top of the mat, drawing that left foot forward, coming back to our standing mountain pose. And let's draw the left foot back again. This time we're going to turn the toes so that they face the long edge of the mat. We're going to find our warrior two legs. Again, how grounded do we want to be? What's the extent of extension we can safely find in our bodies? That's what finding these out, what our bodies do in these poses and exploring is all about. We can bring our hands up to parallel. We can also keep them at our hips, at our sides. Maybe we're working on our posture, and maybe we're working on lengthening our spine and just feeling the groundedness of warrior two here. Working on opening that front bent knee, letting that hip grow stronger with the knee sort of pointing to those smaller toes in the front. Feeling that opening. From here, let's release our hands if they were lifted, straighten the front knee, and then bend the front knee. Straighten and bend. And the next time the knee bends, let's lean the upper body forward. Same arm, the forearm comes to that thigh, and we'll lift the top hand, maybe bringing it towards the sky or ceiling, or bringing it by our ear. We can exhale. We'll kind of slice that hand forward, so the hand's coming straight out from the shoulder. And then we'll bring it down by our side. Engage our core here to lift up off that leg, or use the chair, use a block to lift up. We'll straighten the front leg, turn the toes, and walk the feet together. Let's go to the opposite end of the mat. Coming back to our mountain at the top, feet hip distance. Let's step the left foot back this time. Wait a minute, that's wrong. Step the right foot back this time, right toes facing towards that long edge of your mat. My bad. We'll bend into the front knee. Again, maybe your stance is closer together. You're really going for that grounding. Maybe the feet are able to support the legs walked a little farther apart, grounding that way, extending that way. Find your stable posture with shoulders over hips. Decide where your arms should be. Maybe they're lifted, maybe they're not. Making yoga your own. Let's begin to straighten the knee. Maybe lower the arms. Sorry, I should have said that first. Then we'll bend and straighten a few times, seeing what our knee can handle. And then bringing the upper body over that bent knee, leaning the same forearm on that thigh, and drawing the back arm, lifting it up towards the ceiling or sky, or bringing the bicep right by the ear. We'll exhale, relaxing that arm down. Inhale, we'll press up, lifting ourselves with that tight core. Let's straighten the knee, turn that left foot, and we'll walk our feet, or heel toe, the feet towards one another again. From here, let's practice our balance with tree. I'm going to model how to use a chair with tree. It's probably pretty self-explanatory, but nonetheless, it helps to see what options there might be. So with your hands supporting, or being supported rather, by a wall or a chair, or maybe doing this free form, First, find your mountain, feet hip distance apart. Find your Pada Bandha, really press your feet into the floor. Use that ability to ground the feet, holding and supporting the upper body. We'll work with the foot farthest away from the chair wall if you're using a chair wall, and we'll bend that opposite knee forward first. Draw the foot a little forward and let's toe tap. Just kind of get our sense of how our balance on this side is feeling today, working and doing. And then we'll release the toes back down to the floor. Let's turn the foot, excuse me, so that the toes point the opposite, not the opposite way, but a 90-degree difference. We can stay with the foot that we've bent, the knee that we've bent, really far away from the body, because that may help us be more stable. We could also lean into the chair, and that might give us the ability to draw the heel into the standing leg ankle. Standing up as tall as you can, pressing into that foot. You may or may not want to lift the opposite foot. Bring the foot in alignment with the leg so that the toes are on top of the heel. You may keep that leg low, the bent knee leg low. You may bring the foot up higher. See if you can't externally rotate that knee out. Holding there, maybe holding on to have that groundedness, maybe lifting one or both arms. See if you can tighten your core. Good. Use your abdominal muscles, your back muscles to hold you up here. Find any extension that you still want to find. Option to use same hand, first two fingers, pointer and middle. Grab the big toe and extend this leg out and up if you'd like. And when you're ready to release, being able to shake the legs out. Step on and off of both feet, excuse me, and get your body to release and relax from the intensity that you might have felt in that tree pose. And then measuring the amount of intensity you'd like to feel in your yoga practice overall. Maybe that changes week to week with your energy levels. Maybe it stays consistent. Find your mountain pose. We'll work on the other leg. So we want that to be away from the chair wall. We'll bend that knee, draw the foot forward, do some toe tapping, lifting of the knee as high as it feels good or as you're able. And then with the toes back down, we'll kind of slide and swing that foot wide, bend the knee. This foot is now 90 degrees, facing not the opposite direction, but a 45-degree angle away in that direction. And then we'll draw the foot in any amount. Play and explore with what our body feels like doing here on this side. And then finding that extension, holding the pose that we've chosen. On your next exhale, we'll release from our tree. Let's shake the legs and arms out. And then let's see if we can come into palm tree. Maybe we use the chair. We're going to come onto our tiptoes, lift one hand, or maybe neither hand into the air. Maybe both hands can go up. But find the palm tree by coming up onto your tiptoes. And then let's make our way down to the floor. And let's make our way down into our supine shape. with our spine laying flat on the floor. Let's try a full body stretch here. Arms go up and back behind the head, feet pressing away from the body, toes pointing away from the body, legs lengthening, arms lengthening. And now let's release the arms from up over the head. Walk each foot up onto the mat, bending the knee, and we'll bring the knees in towards the chest. Maybe we grab the backs of the legs. Maybe we don't. Maybe we wrap our hands around the tops. And let's wiggle the toes, point and flex the feet, and circle the ankles. Let your next exhale release your feet to the floor. And let's begin windshield wipering the knees from side to side. So what we'll do is we'll exhale, let the knees fall over to the side as much as they're able. Inhale, lifts the knees back up over the feet. Soles of the feet come straight up onto the floor or mat. Good. Next time your knees fall over to the right, we'll go ahead and leave them there. Maybe you stack your knees on top of the other, stack your feet. Maybe it feels good to lengthen that bottom leg. Let your arms stretch out wide like a wing, like bird's wings on your next inhale. And let your chin rotate away from the bent knees on your next exhale. Let your next inhale lift the chin back to center, and we'll lift the knees back up to center. As the knees fall over to the other side, come into your twist on the opposite side. Arms still extended like a bird. Chin rotating away from the knees. On the next inhale, bring your chin back up over the center of your chest. Bring your knees back up. And let's move into our Shavasana, our final Shavasana here. Shape, whatever it is that you would like to choose to be comfortable. You could come into corpse pose with the legs straight, excuse me, extended from the hips. You could come into a bent knee pose with the feet on the floor, walking the feet out wide towards the edge of your mat. You could come into legs on the chair, where you bring your hips close to the side or the front of the chair. You place your lower legs and feet on the chair. I left my prop, my blanket away from me, so I'm just going to roll up my yoga mat to place it under my head so that it lifts my head just a tiny bit, maybe a half inch or inch. Arms can be at your side, anywhere toward or away from your torso. Closing down the eyes, let your body begin to relax and settle into the mat. Maybe you can feel the hum or the tingling in your body responding to these yoga poses, a whole collection of what you practice today. And maybe you can focus on your breath, letting it draw out side to side again as much as possible. Seeing if you can relax the legs no matter what position they're in, the feet. See if you can relax the arms, the hands. Letting your hips and shoulders and spine feel grounded and heavy on the floor, along with the back of your head. Continuing to focus your attention inside, using the power of yoga to help us refine our love for our bodies and finding power as we come to the mat just as we are, slowing our breath, slowing our body, and feeling ourselves fully embrace the experience of yoga and asana, knowing that yoga is accessible if we can understand the language of movement of our own body. Smoothing out the breath, making the breath even side to side, perhaps realizing, finding a place of tension in the body that hasn't released yet, and just asking that area of the body to release. Maybe tighten that area and then relax it to get it to release. Maybe the trick is in making it feel heavy, heavier against the mat. As you begin your next inhale, start to rotate your head from left to right slowly, waking yourself up. Let's inhale, full body stretch, lifting the arms up and back as we rotate our head, or maybe we've brought our head to stillness. Perhaps you're taking a full body stretch with the arms up overhead, extending the legs as well. Let's move from here over to one side, finding ourselves in the seed pose, shoulders and hips stacked, and then inhaling to press up away from the floor, finding a comfortable seated position to close our class together today. Inhaling the arms up overhead, bringing the hands together, closing down the eyes as we exhale and lower our hands toward our heart center. We can drop our chin towards our chest to bow to the divine inside of us. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Let the next inhale lift the chin, flutter open the eyes, release the hands. And thank you so much for joining me in yoga and how to modify. I'm Dee. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and week. Take care.